Who's the GOAT of all time in bass fishing? Welcome, this is Sieg Taylor with Fish Out Loud, and I'm holding a Brian Kershaw whistle. Good luck whistle. Matter of fact, if you don't have this, you're not catching big fish. So, in 1994, a young gentleman from Connecticut would do something that nobody had done up until that point, and matter of fact hasn't done since. And that is win the 1994 Bass Federation National Championship, and then go on in the same year to win the 1994 World Bassmaster Classic Championship. Can I get a thumbs up on that? Awesome. But here's the thing about Mr. Brian Kershaw that I admire so much, and Woo Daves, who is also a Bassmaster Classic World Champion, said it best. Sieg, Brian was not only a good fisherman, but he was a great as a person. How awesome is that to have another fellow competitor who knew Brian personally say that? So here I am thinking about Brian, and I have over many, many years. Probably one of the greatest stories that had a tragic ending when he died shortly after winning the 1994 Bassmaster Classic Championship in a plane crash. So over the years, I've thought about him many times and his story. Never met him, but I knew his story, and my job here is to keep that story alive so you can understand why we have such a phenomenal sport. So is he the greatest of all time? There are so many great fishermen out there, and I'm sure you have a favorite too. However, I do believe that had he been able to spend time with us here today, that over the years he would have proved that he definitely was the greatest. And his favorite bass fisherman then was Mr. Rick Clunn, and we know what he's been able to do. So awesome fisherman that we've been with. Now, here's the thing. At the 2021 Bassmaster Classic Championship, which they just had here recently in Texas, where congratulations to Mr. Hank Cherry, who has now won back-to-back classics, is an awesome fisherman in his own right. They did a tribute on Brian, and I said to myself, man, what if I could just get myself a hold of one of these whistles, what that would mean to me, having known Brian over the years and his story. And so it was about seven days later, maybe 8 or 9 days later, that I was on YouTube and I come across Mr. Bass Outdoors, and he is located in Lake Seminole here in Florida, which is right up on northern border. It's a great lake, so if you find yourself down here, not only does he have a great YouTube channel, but he also is a guide there. And he was doing a tribute unboxing party that I'm kind of like doing right now, that he'd gotten from Mr. Kershaw. And I said to myself, you know, what if I could get one of those whistles? I've always wanted one of these whistles. And by the way, if you like what you're hearing, give me a thumbs up. Thank you. I appreciate that. And I reached out to him and said, hey, what's the chance of me getting one of these whistles? I'd be more than happy to give a donation to our kids' fishing cause. And so he reached out to me, goes, here's my email, send me an email. And I did, and he suggested something even better. He says, why don't you contact Mr. Kershaw? And I did. And I found myself driving up to Georgia to spend about 4 hours. We had a great lunch, and we spent the rest of the time going over all the memorabilia. I got this cap. It's a memorial cap on the Brian Kershaw Memorial Fund. And I got a bunch of these whistles. He also gave me a lot of these memorial trading cards, which I am putting in the hands of kids of all ages, if you know what I mean. And it just was such an honor to get the whistle, get some memorial trading cards, but we went even bigger than that. He gave me a cap that Brian wore on the third day of the Bassmaster Classic Championship. This is a Wrangler that he was sponsored by. So he gave me a cap too that was signed by some of the professionals here, and I'm going to just name a couple of them off. Davey Hyde, Bassmaster Classic champion. Jay Ellis, one of my favorites, stellar guy, Bassmaster Classic Championship. Matter of fact, he gave this to me, and I haven't contacted Jay yet. I haven't reached out to him yet, but this is actually for Jay. So I want to make proof that I did have this, because I'm going to send this to Jay because Mr. Kershaw thought a lot of him. And I also got this verification card of this worm that Brian used on the third day of the Bassmaster Classic Championship. You know, he has a handful of these left, and I was so honored. I'm like, you don't have to give that to me. He goes, no, I want to give that to you. You know, that's how the Kershaws are, and they instilled that in their children. That's why I do believe that it takes much more than just catching big fish. It takes a big heart to become the GOAT of all times. If you like what you saw here, please share this with others. We want to get the story out. And by the way, I have a link below here, the Brian Kershaw story. Special thumbs up and any comments that you may have. Really appreciate you taking the time out here today to watch this and to keep this memory alive. Brian appreciates that too. I'm sure he's up in heaven looking down on us. All right, remember, as always, you're just one cast away.